Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Spring is in the air as the Tribe invades Minnesota, looking to open up the offense as the weather warms up. Cy Young winner Corey Kluber would like to see some runs as well, as the Indians have provided him with just 3 runs of support in 2 starts. The Twins just took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City under new manager Paul Molitor, and they host the Tribe next on Sports Time Ohio. From the heart of the Twin Cities in downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's Target Field, and tonight the Indians invade for a 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Tribe trying to get this 10-day road trip started off on a good note, and they've got the Cy Young Award winner on the hill, Corey Kluber. And Rick, he's trying to extend a streak that began last year. 7 consecutive starts, 6 innings at least, and 2 earned runs or less allowed.
Well, he's been fine in his first 2 starts. He's been matched up against a couple of tough left-handers, Dallas Keuchel and then David Price, and he's only given up 2 runs in each start. He certainly has pitched well enough to win, but the offense hasn't been able to generate any runs for him, so hopefully he'll go out there, pitch his normal game. He is 4-2 in his career against the Minnesota Twins. He'll be matched up against a right-hander this time, Mike Pelfrey, who is 1-1 in his career. He had elbow surgery and missed most of last year, so he hasn't won in almost a year.
Well, this is an Indians ball club that won the season series against Minnesota last year, but here in Minnesota, this is a pretty decent Twins bullpen. They only gave up 10 earned runs in the 9 games played here a season ago. When we come back, we'll find out if Michael Brantley is ready to get back in the starting lineup when Indians baseball continues here on Sports Time Ohio. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. spectacular April evening here in the Twin Cities as we welcome you inside Target Field for the series opener between the Indians and the Minnesota Twins. Michael Brantley is back in the starting lineup. Let's go downstairs to Andre Knott. Andre, why DH not in left field?
One step at a time, Matt. He's going to DH tonight. It's basically the doctor's orders, guys. He worked out yesterday. He's missed 6 of the first team's 8 games. He wants to be out in left field. The plan is, if everything goes right, he'll DH tonight, bat third, then he'll be out in left field tomorrow. But really, they just want to go day to day right now and figure this all out. I asked Michael earlier, I go, are you frustrated? And he said, can I use a word better than that? And I go, well, I can't use that on the air, but you get the drift. Michael wants to play. He doesn't like missing games. He admitted he may have pushed it on opening day or at our home opener. He just wants to be in the lineup. So he's going to DH tonight, and hopefully he'll be out in left field tomorrow.
All right, baby steps. Makes sense.
It sounds good to me. I'll tell you, it's just nice to have that bat in the lineup hitting third. So, yes, baby steps is right. He's in the lineup DH, and hopefully tomorrow he'll be in left field.
All right, it's the Indians and the Minnesota Twins. All set. We'll be back with the first pitch from Target Field coming up next. All right, just about ready for baseball here in Minneapolis. Indians and the Twins getting ready to go head-to-head. Torrey Hunter back here in Minnesota, where it all began for him in his career. Now, one of the elder statesmen, if not the elder statesman,
yes,
on that ball club, trying to provide some leadership under a brand new manager this year, but a very familiar baseball name in Paul Molitor. But the Twins off to a rough start, 3-6, but they sort of righted their ship in a hurry. Lost their home opener to the Kansas City Royals, got drubbed 12-3, and everybody was really low. Then they bounced back and win the next 2 against Kansas City.
Yes, they did. And, you know, coming home, they had a rough road trip, but they played Detroit and they played Chicago. And, you know, they haven't scored. So both these teams are in the same boat. They have the same amount of runs scored, so hopefully we'll see the Indians getting off and scoring more tonight.
Our Windows Systems game time temperature tonight, 74 degrees. You kidding me? Mid-April in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Wow, spectacular.
Just beautiful.
Let's get a look at the Indians starting lineup tonight under Tribe manager Terry Francona. It is presented by Progressive Insurance. Michael Bourne will lead it off. Jason Kipnis in the 2-hole. There's Michael Brantley's name back in the lineup, DHing, hitting third. Carlos Santana will bat cleanup. He has made himself right at home in this ballpark in his career. Brandon Moss, David Murphy, then it's Lonnie Chisenhall, Roberto Perez, and Jose Ramirez. So that's 8 left-handed bats in the lineup tonight for Cleveland.
Well, the Northern Ohio Honda dealer's starting pitcher for the Twins tonight will be 31-year-old Mike Pelfrey, 6'7", 240 pounds, making his second start of the year. His first one came against the White Sox. Went 5 innings, 7 hits, and 4 runs. And he's making his 5th career start against the Cleveland Indians, and his career record is 1-1 with a 2.86 ERA. So he has had a little bit of success, but he missed all of last year. He had elbow surgery, so he only made 5 starts. So he's trying to come back and get a win. And he already been almost a year. The defense brought to you by Chrysler for the Twins tonight. Escobar is in left, Schaefer in center, Arcia is in right. Plouffe at third, Santana is at short, Dozier at second, Maurer is at first with Herman doing the catching. The Twins ranked 14th in the league. They've made 9 errors this year as a team.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Mike DeMuro will call the balls and strikes. Trip Gibson is at first. Crew chief Brian Gorman at second. Mark Carlson down at third. I think the overall nature of the Twins' sloppy play in the first several games was what really got under Paul Molitor's skin, because he said this isn't the team that we showed that we were going to be when we were in spring training. They were tidy, they were neat, they played good defense, and then the season started and they fell apart.
Well, you can't, he will not put up with sloppy defense. This Twin team, it was a team that usually never beat themselves.
Mike Pelfrey's first pitch of the ball game in there for a fastball strike. Bourne takes another strike. It's 0-2. You see the numbers for Bourne. His struggles have been against the lefties. He's done well against right-handed pitching, though he strikes out to start tonight's game on 3 pitches. 1 away. There's the keys to the game. Tonight brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Early offense, play from in front. That is a familiar refrain for Cleveland. And execute defensively. When you have your ace on the hill, the Cy Young Award winner, you must give him, if you're not going to support him offensively, then give him all you have on defense. Jason Kipnis taps one back up the middle, but the second baseman Dozier cuts it off. 2 down.
Yeah, the Indians have had 3 leads this year, and that's all 3 wins. So that's a thing that they should strive for, boy. Try and get out there and get that lead early. It means a lot to them.
Michael Brantley. Good to see him back in the lineup. He's missed 6 out of the first 8 games. Doesn't sound like a lot, but early in the season you do wonder where his timing is at with the time that he has already missed. The 0-1. Out of play, and he's in the hole, 0-2. Pelfrey has come out throwing strikes here tonight.
Yeah, 6 pitches, 6 strikes. And Brantley had to take that first pitch because Kipnis swung at the first pitch and he had 4 pitches and 2 outs, and 1 coming on the strikeout. So he almost had to take that first pitch.
Just missed in off the plate. The count 1-2. Rick Anderson, the longtime pitching coach, no longer here, but it's as though Mike Pelfrey is channeling his former pitching coach, the way he's attacking the strike zone here at the outset. Now the 1-2. Inside, just off the plate.
Take a look at this pitch on our Nissan pitch tracker. It's the breaking ball going in. That's a good pitch, but it is in off the plate. That's a tough pitch to get called. That looked like a little slider or a cutter. Tough one to lay off.
Just off the outside corner. And there's that great eye that Michael Brantley has. The count is now full. Now the payoff pitch, and Brantley lines it to left field. That's a base hit.
Well, he made him throw it on the plate. He got a pitch to his liking. A pitch down. Looked like it had quite a bit of the plate. Brantley comes right back with a base hit. Didn't take him long, and the good at bat. He was down 0-2, worked it to 3-2, but a good fastball down. Looked like it was trying to sink away, and Michael stayed on it. Gets the base hit. Welcome back.
He's aboard with 2 down now for Carlos Santana. And as I mentioned with the starting lineup, Santana has done a nice job, especially in this ballpark. 15 career home runs against Minnesota pitching in all. And that pitch knocked it back off the plate. One ball, one strike. The home runs he has hit here at Target Field.
A couple of big boys up top, Bautista and Ortiz.
Close. But Santana with that good eye, a lot like Brantley.
He went fastball in and then change up away, and he wasn't looking for that change up. That's why I think he just took it.
That fastball at the knees, outside corner, just shaved the edge of the plate.
Now it looks like it's going to have just a little movement away. That's a perfect pitch. That's one you're not going to swing at if you don't have to as a hitter. And having only one strike, that's why he did.
Now they want to go inside. And the 2-2. And that's where, if you're going to go in as a pitcher, you have to miss in off the plate.
That's true. You don't miss on the plate, because if you go inside, and that's a tougher pitch to get called a strike, is on the inside corner from a lot of umpires. So you're right. When you go in, you got to miss in off the plate, because he could hit one into that porch out there and give him 2 runs. So maybe that's just setting up this next pitch here. See if he throws a 3-2 changeup away.
Runner goes, 3-2 pitch.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Caught it off the end of the bat. This guy's at the center. Jordan Schaefer is there, and he makes the catch. No runs ahead, a man left. Minnesota coming to bat when we come back.
His warm-up tosses. The Minnesota starting lineup is presented by Toyota. Danny Santana, switch hitter at the top. Eduardo Escobar, also a switch hitter, batting second. Then it's Joe Mauer, followed by Brian Dozier in the cleanup spot. Kenny Vargas will hit fifth. Trevor Plouffe sixth. Three left-handers at the bottom: Oswaldo Arcia, Chris Herman, and Jordan Schaefer.
The Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher for the Tribe is Corey Kluber, making his third start this year, looking for his first win. He's 0-1, pitched well in his first 2 games, 4-2 in his career against the Minnesota Twins, and he was 2-1 last year.
Danny Santana looks at a strike outside corner at the knees.
This is the guy last year Minnesota had him, played some outfield, shortstop. I think they're going to leave him at shortstop this year. He can run.
Collected 128 hits a year ago. That was the most by a Twins rookie since Luis Rivas back in 2001.
Remember him, don't you? The second baseman.
Him and Christian Guzman were the keystone combo here for a number of years. Struck him out looking. Corey Kluber. Boy, that comeback fastball, the reverse sinker, a little two-seamer, whatever you want to call it, it is a lethal pitch for Corey.
Yeah, good. Throw it at that front hip, and it comes back in. That's a dart right there. That's his 18th strikeout in just 14 innings of work. So he has the strikeout pitch working.
Now Eduardo Escobar. Pops it in the air, left field near the line, but it's going to slice out of play as David Murphy gave it a long look.
Yeah, if I'm the Twins, I'd get after that first fastball he throws. He has too many weapons he can come at you with. You know, the cutter inside. He throws that front hip, that little comeback fastball. He has so many weapons to put you away with when he gets you to 2 strikes, whether you're right-handed or left-handed. Last year, hitters had a pretty good success rate swinging at the first pitch when they put it in play off Kluber.
Just aren't as many hitters, it seems like today, Rick, that like to swing at the first pitch. Now, whether or not that's an overall multiple organizational philosophy thing, work the count. I mean, look how many times we've seen a highlighted stat of, well, this guy led the organization in pitches per plate appearance. I think it's something that's taught and preached, and so a lot of hitters just aren't comfortable getting after that first pitch.
Well, when they walk back to the dugout a couple times, they may want to change that philosophy, especially when you're facing a guy as aggressive as Corey Kluber is, when he's throwing about 65 to 70% strikes every game.
Yeah, the whole key to hitting is get a good pitch to hit. That's what Ted Williams preached. Get a good pitch to hit.
So it may be the first pitch.
If the first one's a good one, there's no harm in swinging at it.
No, there really isn't. If you get what you're looking for, get after it.
Kluber trying to put him away with a 2-2. Pops him up left center. Murphy says, I'll take it. He does. 2 down.
Check out the defense for the Indians, brought to you by Chrysler. It's David Murphy in left field just making that catch. Michael Bourne's in center. Brandon Moss in right. Lonnie Chisenhall at third. Jose Ramirez at short. Jason Kipnis at second. Carlos Santana is at first. And Roberto Perez is behind the dish.
Look at that stat in the lower left-hand corner. 1.73 ERA in Corey Kluber's last 10 road starts, but only a 5-4 record.
Yeah. That's keeping you in the game. That's all you can do. You would expect more, at least in that W column. Yeah. I know that's what you're thinking.
Strike over the outside corner to Joe Mauer. Mauer sporting the full beard here at the start of the campaign.
Well, hitting third this year. He has 9 hits on the season, all singles.
Nice off-speed pitch by Kluber and had Mauer swinging over the top. It's 0-2. Chops it just foul at the first base side.
You normally do not see Joe Mauer pull many foul balls. He's one of those guys that waits on the baseball and hits them. If you see foul balls, they're usually third base side, where he's tardy on them. You rarely see him pull many.
2-strike pitch, got him swinging. Boy, Kluber with a little cutter. Strikes out a pair here in the first. Twins go 1-2-3. No score after an inning. Second inning here at Target Field. Brandon Moss will lead it off for Cleveland. Corey Kluber with a 1-2-3 first inning. Struck out a couple of Twins. Mike Pelfrey starts him off with a breaking ball in the dirt.
Pelfrey featuring the fastball. He'll sink it. The breaking ball, slider, and also a changeup.
Upstairs with a fastball, 2-0.
This is a guy you want to get going for the Indians right here. Brandon Moss. Well, this is a guy he's 5 for 10 against, so why not start now?
Pelfrey gets it in the zone, and it's 2-1. So far, he's trying not to give Moss any swinging room.
That's how a lot of teams have pitched him so far to this point. They have just pounded him inside. And then for their show pitch, they'll throw something off speed and away. But for the most part, stay tight. Slightly open, and that's not a bad philosophy. You know, he may chase some of the pitches up in the zone. You get it down in the zone, he can do some damage.
Wants that fastball in again. And Moss is called out on strikes.
Good pitch. You make that pitch in there, you're going to get a lot of hitters out. Second strikeout for Pelfrey. Has a little comeback to it. Right there. That's belt high. Good pitch.
There's David Murphy. And he looks at a ball just off the plate. Pelfrey evens the count 1-1. Line drive center field. Schaefer able to make the running catch. 2 down. Here's our great clip of the game going back to Wednesday. Lonnie Chisenhall roping one down into the right field corner, driving in a couple of runs for the Indians.
That was the big hit in that game.
Leading the Tribe to their first and only home win of the season to this point.
Yeah, doubles. You got to take doubles. They haven't hit a home run in 5 games as far as the team goes. So that matches their longest drought of last year. They had a 5-game stretch. And look at them. They're going to put the shift for Chisenhall now.
They take the third baseman, Trevor Plouffe, put him on the right side of the infield. Plouffe is just to the right of second base. Pop back out of play. Chisenhall behind in the count now 1-2. Lonnie works it back to even now. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Cam job right back to the mound. And an easy inning for Mike Pelfrey. The Indians go 1-2-3. No score, middle of the second.
Stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
No score, bottom of the second inning. Brian Dozier to lead it off for Minnesota. Pops it up deep down the left side. And it's a foul ball.
This is one guy that'll jump on a high fastball, I'll tell you that. Brian Dozier. He likes that pitch up in the zone. He was a leadoff hitter last year. Now he's hitting number 4. Not a typical number 4 hitter, but the Twins really don't have anybody else. He led the team the last couple of years in home runs.
Swing and a miss. It's 0-2. Our Kia in the driver's seat. Brian Dozier signing a 4-year contract with the Twins back at the end of spring training, extending him through 2018.
Yeah, 2020 guy. Pretty good power for a second baseman. He's a good athlete overall. He does everything well. You know, I don't think they want to put, you'll see the next hitter. And Vargas, you would think he would be more of a 4-hole hitter compared to Dozier, but maybe they don't want to put the pressure on the young man.
Wide of the mark, it's 2-2. Well, it's no coincidence that the Twins won their last 2 against Kansas City, and in that series, Dozier had a couple of doubles. RBI, scored 3 runs. Swing and a miss, chased the breaking ball in the dirt. And Roberto Perez throws to first to complete the out. Third K for Kluber. 1 down here in the second.
Now another breaking ball that he gets the hitter to chase. Boy, and there's the old equalizer. He had that one fastball to hit, and he hit it foul. That one was in the dirt. Perez did a good job to keep it around him where he was able to just pick it up and throw to first base. So 3 of the first 4 go down on strikeouts.
Here is Kenny Vargas. Rick was just talking about Vargas looks more like a 4-hole hitter at 6'5" and almost 300 pounds.
Yeah. Switch hitter.
Right over the head of Andre Knott down there in the dugout.
He's had a few coming at him early this year.
Vargas, 24 years old.
This is the young Minnesota team that Paul Molitor is going to have to remain patient with.
Big bouncer to first, and Santana with a nice play. Kluber right there at the bag. Takes the flip, 2 down. Here's our Buick stat of the game. Corey Kluber, most starts striking out 10 or more, not allowing a run, and walking only 1.
That's impressive. Very impressive. Such good control.
Trevor Plouffe. Drove in 80 runs last year to lead Minnesota in that category. Second on the team in hits, third in home runs. Big number for Plouffe last year was the doubles. He had 40 of them. 4th most in the American League.
He's had success against Kluber as well. 9 for 25, a double, a couple of home runs, and 7 ribbies.
Fastball away. And he dots the corner. I'm sure both Kluber and Plouffe would be at a loss to try and explain to you why one has had success and the other has struggled in these head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, sometimes you just make pitches, and Plouffe is a guy that, you know, he can hurt you at times. You make a mistake to him, he comes back there with that 2-0 pitch, fastball away, comes back with a good breaking ball, and now he's back into the count 2-2. You know, when you have success against certain pitchers, you don't explain it. You just, sometimes you see the ball better off a guy that could be tough for a lot of other people. It's hard to explain.
Oh, man, perfect pitch. Fastball outside corner, and all Plouffe could do was watch it go by. 4 Ks for Kluber through 2, no score in Minnesota. On a picture-perfect spring evening, Roberto Perez will lead off for Cleveland. And he takes a called strike. Terry Francona admits that he was a little slow to come around on Roberto Perez. He didn't quite see the potential in the young man initially that his minor league manager Chris Tremme had seen in him. Perez thrown out here to start the 3rd inning, 1 away. He really believes, though, that Perez is going to do a terrific job in the absence of Yan Gomes, which brings us to tonight's injury report, brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk and Elk. Gomes will be lost for probably 2 months at least, it sounds like. Hopefully less than that, but you never know. Nick Swisher still on the mend. Let's go down to Andre Knott. Andre, what's the latest on Nick Swisher? I know you talked to Terry Francona about that earlier today.
Yes, the latest on Swisher, he played today in Arizona, reportedly made a long catch where he had to run and had to dive for it. There's a possibility in the next few days he could be put out on assignment, on a rehab assignment, and back with the team in the next couple of weeks.
Well, that would be good news. I mean, look, I know it's early in the year, but it's a team right now that seems to be starved for some offense. Nick's a switch hitter. coming off obviously a subpar season a year ago.
Well, the quicker you can get healthy and get back, the better off it is. It's plain and simple. He knows this division, and you want him back as soon as possible.
Now the 1-2. And it's fouled right back to the screen. Mike Pelfrey throwing a lot of strikes here at the outset. 64% of his pitches have been strikes.
Yeah, and he hasn't pitched in a while. This is only his second start, but when you toe the rubber against Kluber, you've got to throw zeros up there and hope your offense can get you a couple.
To right center field, and the center fielder Schaefer called for it. Arcia, I'm not sure he heard him until the last moment.
Well, he's the captain out there. This is the first game this year that Arcia is playing right field. He was playing in left field. So he gets a start in right, and he's going to come running over. But if the center fielder, if he can get there, he takes everything. He bails out at the end. But that's a little too close. You got to have a little better communication than that, as long as the ball is caught. That's the number one thing. Yeah, see what he's doing? What are you doing? Get out of my way. That's exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah, because if he runs into Arcia, he's going to end up the worse for it.
He's going to lose that battle.
Michael Bourne lost the battle with Mike Pelfrey his first time up. 3 pitches. And Pelfrey struck the Indians' leadoff man out. See what kind of adjustments are made second time through the order, as the Indians went just 1 for 9 first time through.
Yeah, and in that one hit, it was Michael Brantley who was down in the count 0-2 and then ended up getting a base hit on a 3-2 pitch.
Right back to him. Indians again are retired in order. Middle of the third, no score in Minnesota. Enjoy a cold one on this Friday evening. To stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Six up, 6 down through the first 2. Oswaldo Arcia, Chris Herman, Jordan Schaefer, all left-handed bats for the Twins here in the third. Outside corner at the knees. Shoots it foul off the facing of the Indians dugout.
Sent a couple scrambling to the deck.
I think Trevor Bauer, that ball was right at him.
Well, they get right back up and go up there, don't they?
Nice to have that screen in front of the dugout. Makes me think back to the years before the screen.
Oh, many years. Never had that before it became mandatory.
It's only been, what, maybe 10 years since those were installed?
I would think so.
Nobody sits anymore. Now they all stand.
Well, sometimes the dugouts are so big back there you can't see the field when you sit back there.
Pulled foul, and a lot of teams, and Cleveland included, have installed benches right on the top step of the dugout so they can sit behind that screened-in area.
Right. Yeah, you get down in the dugout sometimes, you don't really get a good look at the field. You want to get up and see what's going on.
See, Sandy Alomar, that's old school. He sits on the dugout. Sits on the bench.
Yeah.
Here's the 1-2. And Arcia, late swing, strikes out. That's 5 strikeouts now for Kluber. 1 down here in the 3rd.
That was an emergency hack right there.
Our AT&T Uverse Rewind. There might have been some emergency hacks in this video. Corey Kluber fanned 14 Twins in this game. What was it, September 14th?
Yes, it was.
21st, September 21st.
I'll tell you, he looked sharp tonight, too. He came right out of the chute throwing darts. 5 of the first 7 have gone down on strikes. He's got excellent command to this point.
Right back to him. Kluber has it. And he'll throw Chris Herman out. 2 down. Roberto Perez will go out to check on Kluber, but he's just fine.
One walk and 14 punch outs in 8 innings. 120 pitches. That seems like a lot for him, but when you get 14 punch outs.
That might have been the first time Corey's ever smiled actually on the field. I mean, he is as stoic as they get. But I think that's a big part of it. You know, people may think that that's just his personality. And while he's, you know, he's never going to be Don Rickles, but let's face it, I think a big part of being a starting pitcher is never letting anybody know what you're thinking or what your emotions are.
He's got a good poker face.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he sure does.
Take me back to when you were playing. I mean, if you could sense you had a pitcher, or you know, you could smell fear, couldn't you, as a hitter?
Mannerisms and things like that. Yes, the team can. You can sense it. You can see what's going on out there. But he pretty much holds. He's the same, no matter what's going on. I mean, look he just gets set. I mean, he's a little slower, but boy, everything is the same. He repeats his delivery, and everything is just done to perfection. Comes out of the same arm slot.
9 up, 9 down, through 3, no score in Minnesota. The Twin Cities. Target Field, located here in downtown Minneapolis. No score. Let's go to the fourth. Jason Kipnis grounded out his first time up.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people talking when they were still in that dome, man. Oh my goodness, they're going to put an outdoor baseball here in Minnesota. April, you guys will be getting snowed out. You couldn't find a better night for baseball, can you?
Well, the locals all say, though, that you get some spectacular days in the spring here.
Yeah.
We never saw them, though, because all those years we came here, we had to go inside. But, you know, we've had some really, really nice weather early in the season here since this ballpark opened up.
Yeah, I think we're all good till maybe Sunday.
Look, there's going to be a chance of rain in the Midwest.
Yes, it does, no matter where you go, Chicago, Cleveland.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think the idea that, well, there's going to be snow, it's going to be, that hasn't been an issue at all. Oh, I saw the field, a picture of Coors Field last night, and it was completely under snow.
Was it
so
really?
It's a good thing they're not at home. At least I don't think they are.
No, they're in Los
they're
Angeles.
Playing the Dodgers, yeah.
Well, they picked a good time to leave.
Two ball, two strike count for Kipnis. And it's just in off the plate, full count. Because of the way this ballpark was constructed here at Target Field, we probably have the best center field camera look at home plate of any park. I mean, it's pretty close to straight on. A little bit low, ball four. Jason Kipnis draws a walk. First allowed by Pelfrey, second Indians base runner of the night. But the nice thing is they get their leadoff man aboard.
Yes, that helps.
Today's Levin player profile is on the manager, Paul Molitor. Baseball Hall of Famer, 21 seasons. Third overall draft pick out of University of Minnesota. He went to the same high school that Joe Mauer went to over in St. Paul. But he only played a couple of years at the end of his career here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it was 3 years here and 3 in Toronto.
Yeah, you were with him for the bulk of his career over in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee, right. He came, he was, I think, 15 in Milwaukee, 3 in Toronto, and 3 here. He ended up winning a World Series in Toronto when he was there. Terrific hitter, good ball player.
You know, we talked about this before when we were talking about this guy, Michael Brantley. And I just found it fascinating that Paul Molitor, one of his best offensive seasons, came at the end of his career, 1996 here in Minnesota. He put up a career-high 225 hits. And what was he, 39 years old at that time?
Yeah, he always had a quick bat. Always, you know, the amazing thing, he's 9th on the all-time hit list with, 3,300 plus. And he still missed about 3 seasons of baseball due to injuries or on the disabled list. I mean, that's all part of the problem, but if he could have stayed healthy.
That's why we marvel at what Pete Rose did as a player to get that many hits. You just start doing the math, and you're like, it's doggone near impossible.
Yeah, it is.
The 0-1 to Brantley. Towards center, Schaefer racing over, reaches down and makes the catch.
Well, our new Tribe Town MVP's Kids Club is designed for dedicated Tribe fans between the ages of 6 and 14. MVPs get a chance to take part in exclusive events and receive cool gear to add to their collection. Just visit Indians.com for information.
Carlos Santana flied to center in the first. It was on a 3-2 pitch. The game started with Mike Pelfrey recording the first 2 outs on 4 pitches. Then he went 3-2 to Brantley, who singled. Then he went 3-2 to Santana. And then Santana flied out the center to end that first inning. And then after that, he really settled into a good groove before walking Jason Kipnis to start this inning. He had retired 7 in a row before that walk. We'll see if the Indians can make him pay for that sin. Quick throw to first, and Kipnis back with a dive. There's a reason why first base coaches always tell their runners, whatever level they're playing in, that the minute you take your lead, don't take your eyes off the pitcher, because all it takes is for you to look down at your shoe tops 1 second. If he looks over, you're done.
Yeah, you get your lead early and just stay focused. But you try to know the pitchers that have the quick move, that will throw. Some guys won't throw to first base. Let's say right-handers, when they're in their windup, they like to come set. But the pitchers that, as they're taking their arms up, will turn and flip over there. That's the ones you got to be careful with quick feet.
Verlander's like that in Detroit.
Very much so. He throws over more than anybody.
Twins will move the extreme shift on now, but unlike the shift we saw earlier, Trevor Plouffe now stays on the left side of the infield. Before, he went over to the right side. Probably because you got a runner at first.
Yes.
The 2-2. Hit off the plate. So Santana's second at bat of the game, and another full count. So he's seen probably everything Pelfrey's had to offer.
Got to start your runner here. 3-2, even if Santana swings through it. They don't.
Bauer goes to second. They get the out there. Back to first. Throws it away. But Santana has to hold the ball kicked off the facing of the dugout instead of going in.
They're lucky. No harm. Right there. Kipnis did not start on the pitch. That enabled Mauer to go to second base and get the lead runner. And then the throw is a little wild from Santana to first base, but he's lucky because it catches the netting in front of the dugout. There's a good feed there. He comes to the inside part of the bag, and Pelfrey over at first base. Look at, he hustles to get over there. Let me get to the bag. He does a good job. That's a big target to throw at. If you throw wide to him, then that's a bad throw. But there was no harm.
All right, Brandon Moss will get a chance to bat here with 1 on and 2 out. He was called out on strikes his first time up. Low and away, ball 1. Let's go down to Andre. Pretty interesting career numbers between these two.
Yes, Brandon Moss is hitting under 100 right now. Ty Van Berkeley told me, he told Brandon Moss, stop looking at that. Just go play the game. Came into the game hitting 500 against Pelfrey. They feel like he's the strongest guy mentally on the team. He was going to get through this. They're not worried about him right now.
The 1-0 pitch. Out of play. No matter how strong you are mentally, everybody needs a hit once. Everyone, you got to.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Some nutrition, some emotional nutrition.
I don't care how strong you are. This game will make you think strange things in your head when you're slumping. When you go up there and you're swinging the bat well, you don't have a care in the world. You're very confident. You walk in that batter's box, you believe you're going to hit no matter what you do. Even if you go down in the count 0-2. When you're slumping, it seems like the pitchers are making every pitch for strikes. You're always battling. You're always hitting from an 0-2, 1-2 count.
I know this is going to sound oversimplistic, but if they're jamming him, I mean really busting him in, do you try to back off the plate a little bit?
Well, you got to make adjustments. He has to make adjustments.
Runner goes. Moss
That's a
takes.
good pitch, I'll tell you what.
And Santana's safe at second. How about Carlos with a head-first dive? Steals the base, his first of the year.
I think the catcher blocked him out because it was a good pitch. That was a strike. You watch this. That's a strike right on the inside corner, and he didn't see the pitch. Santana gets the stolen base, and they catch a break.
close play at the bag, but Carlos in there safely. And now the Indians have a runner in scoring position with 2 down for Moss.
I think Herman's out there telling him that was a good pitch, but he stay right there.
Now the 2-2. Went to off speed. Yeah, change up. The other thing was really floating in there, wasn't it?
Well, a couple got away from him. He didn't really finish it out in front, and that thing took off. Up and away through Santana. 3-2 change up his first at bat, but I'm thinking he's got to go try and bury Moss inside again.
That's where they set up. No, yeah. Almost hit him. It's ball 4. And the Indians have 2 on with 2 out. Second walk of the inning. And we'll bring up David Murphy. Murphy, a liner to center that was caught his first time up. First couple innings, Pelfrey was throwing 64% of his pitches for strikes. That number down to about 57% now. So he's, whether it's a case where he's trying to be maybe a little too fine or Indians hitters are laying off.
Well, he's pitching inside, and you mentioned it before. If you're going to miss, you miss in off the plate to the hitters like that. So he's got to continue to do that if he's going to be successful. Because if he stays away with everything, they're going to get to him.
Upstairs and away, 1-1.
Yeah, that changeup, he's not.
No feel for it, really.
Yeah, he's spinning off of it, it looks like. He's a big guy. He's 6'7". Really got to finish that pitch off.
Starts out, you can see the ball in his hand with a split grip. I'm wondering if that maybe is how he's throwing that changeup.
Well, as big as he is, I'm sure his hands are big. I think it very well could be.
Two on, 2 out. David Murphy in a good hitters count here, 2-1. Only 1 hit so far for the Indians. That belonging to Michael Brantley back in the first. Got a piece of the catcher, Herman, on that foul ball. Got him on the inside of the ankle.
It looked like it, yeah. It deflects down on the inside of the calf. That place down
there. First time tonight a runner has been in scoring position. And the Indians cash in. Here's the 2-2 to Murphy. Full count. Lonnie Chisenhall would be next.
Earlier he's been going in there. He threw a couple for strikes, but he hasn't been able to throw any for strikes recently. That second time through, they've all been called balls. The one time he did throw a strike in there, it was called a ball on the pitch Santana took off on.
Runners go, and it's ball 4. He's walked the bases loaded. And out comes the pitching coach, Neil Allen. Lonnie Chisenhall is going to be the batter, and he had a little comebacker his first time up. But an early moment of truth in this game now for Mike Pelfrey as he's created this mess for himself. Neil Allen, you may remember, a National League pitcher most of his career. He did have one brief stint with the Indians back in 1989. Pitch with the Mets, the Cardinals, and brief stops with the White Sox, Yankees, and Indians, as I mentioned. But talk about a tough act to follow, though. Rick Anderson did a tremendous job here for a long time.
Yeah, he did. With that whole staff, every time they'd come out, a lot of control, not a lot of walks. And that's what the Indians have.
Lonnie launches one to right. Back goes Arcia on the front edge of the warning track, makes the catch. So the Indians load them up on walks, but they leave them loaded as we head to the bottom of the fourth. Corey Kluber has faced 9 Twins in the first 3 innings. He's retired them all, striking out 5.
Tickets start at just $10 for kids 12 and under with the purchase of an adult ticket. Kids tickets are located in the new family deck out at Progressive Field, home to the new expanded kids clubhouse. Just log on to Indians.com.
Danny Santana, Eduardo Escobar, Joe Mauer, top of the order for Minnesota here in the fourth. Santana called out on strikes his first time up. Trying to bunt, and it's foul.
Well, they need a base runner. I don't blame them. They're trying to do anything they can to get somebody on base.
Well, only 4 guys put the ball in play their first time up against Kluber.
Yeah.
That's out of play. And a count quickly 0-2. Last year, Corey Kluber had a remarkable season. The 0-2 delivery fouled away. He became only the 4th big league pitcher since 1987 to post 18 wins, a sub 250 ERA, and striking out at least 260 batters. Weakly grounded towards second, and Jason Kipnis will throw him out, 1 down. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski. Good stuff, Al.
Well, good stuff is right.
Fireworks. Love the early testiness between those two.
Well, there's been a few teams that have gotten after it early this year. And, you know, they're going to play many more times.
Well, Kansas City and Chicago on opening day were getting after each other.
Yes, they were.
Eduardo Escobar flied to left his first time up. A little bit low. 1-1. Escobar swing and a miss at an off-speed pitch that was in the dirt, and he's in the hole 1-2. Hit in the air to center field. Michael Bourne backpedaling. 2 down. Over 60 live events, 2 networks, 1 month. It's April, and the OHIO, you can win an incredible Cavs experience this week. Lunch with Fred and AC, a tour of the Cleveland Clinic courts, and an autographed jersey. Text Cavs on FSO to 733-733 to enter. That's Cavs on FSO, 733-733. Message and data rates apply. Stay tuned next week for a terrific Tribe experience. Two down now for Joe Mauer. And fouled it off of his foot. Cavaliers gearing up for the playoffs. A lot of excitement around town.
Yeah, they start on Sunday, right? Game 1.
I believe they do, yeah.
Series with Boston. Good luck to them.
Mauer awaiting the 0-1 pitch. And Kluber
Change-up.
has really done a nice job with the off-speed stuff to Mauer tonight.
He's thrown a couple of really good change-ups to Joe Mauer. First at bat he did on the second pitch. There's a dandy right there on the outside corner.
Now the 2-strike pitch. That fastball took off. If I remember right, first at bat, it was a breaking ball down in the dirt that he got Mauer to chase. Might come back that way again. He does, and he got him again.
Good call.
Corey Kluber has K'd a half dozen Twins through the first 4 innings.
your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Target Field here in Minnesota. No score, 5th inning. Roberto Perez, Jose Ramirez, and Michael Bourne to bat for Cleveland. Mike Pelfrey's allowed 1 hit. He's walked 3, struck out a pair. He got out of every pitcher's worst nightmare. Walked.
Yes.
The bases loaded, but survived. And Lonnie Chisnell just hit it off maybe just off the end of the bat a little bit.
Yeah, he walked the leadoff man and was able to get a couple of outs and walked 2 more, but they couldn't get him. Still only giving up 1 hit.
Yeah.
That strike percentage, as you said, is going down from the first time through the lineup. You say it was 64% that first time through? Yeah, it's gone down 10, so it's down to like 53 now. So he's keeping it off the plate. Patience, I guess, patience.
Well, Perez in a good spot here, 3-0. Twins bullpen starting to get some activity down there. Nobody's throwing, but bodies are moving around. Pelfrey's just over 70 pitches on the night, as you see there. Foul right back to the screen. That's the one you want to get after when you're a hitter if you like it. 3-1. Chopper in the hole, and it gets through. Santana was able to glove it, but by that time, no shot. And Perez has the Indians' 2nd hit of the night, 2nd straight inning. Indians have their leadoff man aboard.
Well, once it gets by Plouffe, he's going to get a base hit. Santana does a nice job to even get to this ball. Look where he catches it. But there was no way he was going to be able to make a throw. His arm would have fell off. So Perez credited with a single, just the 2nd hit for the Indians. The 2nd straight inning they've had their leadoff man aboard.
Up comes Jose Ramirez, who flied to center. Back in the 3rd. I started saying this during Roberto Perez's first at bat tonight, about how Terry Francona was kind of slow to come around on him. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, if you just look at the track record of Roberto Perez when he was in the minor leagues with the Indians, just wasn't a lot to get excited about. It took a while for his offensive game to emerge, and even Roberto himself admits that he was kind of frustrated because he just never gained any traction. I mean, just look back. In 2011, he got to Kinston, hit .225. Next year at AA, .212, .247. 176 his first go around at AAA, and then last year he hit .305 for the Clippers. It all finally came into place for him. He takes off, and Ramirez punches it through the left side of the infield on the hit and run. Roberto Perez flying into 3rd base, and he is going to beat the tag.
Well done by Ramirez.
Really
Start
good
your
execution.
Runner, Start your runner. Just put the ball on the ground. That's what the hit and run is designed for. This is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. You see, he got a pitch. He stays inside. The shortstop vacated. Wrong guy covered. Great job by Ramirez. And then in comes Perez to go 1st and 3rd. You see, you're starting one of your slowest runners. But he picked up the baseball. He's able to get to 3rd base. That was a well-executed hit and run by those two. Now they've got something rolling. Nobody out, 1st and 3rd.
Michael Bourne, 0 for 2 on the night. Takes a fastball for a strike.
Objective swing did not go around. They count 1-1. Bourne with 1 RBI so far on the year. Golden opportunity to add 1 to his season tally. Jose Ramirez, by the way, is a perfect 3 for 3 stealing bases on the year. Getting some action now in the Minnesota bullpen. Left-hander Caleb Thielbar just called up today. The 1-1. Up and off the glove of Herman. He can't find the ball. Here comes Perez. He will score.
Heads up play by Perez. He picked it up. Ramirez was automatically going to get down there. And when he popped it up and that glove popped out of the glove, I don't think he saw it.
They're going to score that a wild pitch, even though Herman had his glove on it.
Yeah, but that's a tough play to handle. He had to jump up thinking it was going to get out of the way, and he just lost it. And that I agree. That's a wild pitch. He can't find it. Perez, a good job of base running. Even though you don't have speed, you can still become a decent or a good base runner. In this inning, Perez was.
2-1 to Bourne. Trying to bunt. Jabbed at it, and now it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Good point, though, Rick, on the base running by Perez. I mean, it's a hit and run, but he didn't have to get to third, but it was great that he did get there.
He looked, he saw where the ball was hit, he made his decision. It was a really nice job. You don't see the hit and run executed well much anymore. You know, I like what Ramirez did. He just slapped it the other way, hit it on the ground. We saw the shortstop vacate. It was really done well. When it's done well, it's beautiful. You make something happen. You get the bottom part of the lineup. They're setting up the inning here for you. Now it's up to Bourne to add on and get him over to third base.
2-2 count. Just off the outside edge, a full count now from Michael. Caleb Thielbar trying to get loose in a hurry. Belford just over 80 pitches on the night.
They are going to see more left-handers out of bullpens than you ever have.
Well, Minnesota put 1 on the DL and called another one up today.
Yes, they did.
Walked him. Ball 4. 2 on, nobody out. That might be it.
He's ragged this inning. That's 4 walks now for Pelfrey.
Let's go back and take a look at that hit and run of the execution.
Great count. You started him 1-1, and there it was, just on the ground. And you can see that was a beautiful job of getting all the way to third base, and then he reads the pitch well. He sees it. He sees it, and he, you know, with his speed, he knows he's got to make sure before you go home. But he picked it up in time to go ahead and take it, and Ramirez went to second, so that plays big in this inning.
Kipnis trying to bunt, and it's going to go foul. I wonder, too, being a catcher, as he took his secondary lead down the line, when he saw the ball pop out of the glove, and he might have caught the glance in Herman's eyes, like, I know that look where you don't know where the ball is.
I'm sure.
And that told him, I can go.
Little things you have to pick up. It's paying attention. It's anticipating when you're in situations like that as a base runner. Kipnis trying to move him along.
Now, Mike Pelfrey has pitched inside, and he's done it pretty effectively tonight.
But you know what he's done the second time through that lineup? He hasn't been able to throw it for a strike, so they've been able to take every pitch that he's thrown in there. You know, they're not really concerned about that. He hasn't proven he can continue to go in there and throw a strike.
Tap towards second.
Not
They get
hit.
the force there. Kipnis going to beat it out at first base. So they avoid the double play, which is huge. Ramirez to third on the play.
It just wasn't hit hard enough to turn the double play. They wanted to, as Bourne was going into second base, but no siree. Let's go back and look at Perez again on third base and the angle that he had coming down. There's the ball. He starts to go. Now he realizes he can't find it. So then he just continues to come. See, Bourne didn't even wave him in because he didn't know what was going on. You have to pay attention to your own. You be your own base running coach right there.
Yeah, in that particular instance, you've got to make the decision.
That's
on your
right.
own.
You've got to feel it. You
right
don't
now,
need
he's
help.
just telling, look, I've got too much speed. They can't stop me there.
Well, I'll tell you, I really enjoy watching guys with average speed run the bases well, because that means that they're concentrating and they're trying to do it.
Brantley lines one, but it's going to go foul on the left side.
Got a foul ball, but he broke a finger in the chair.
Brantley knows this at-bat is all about execution, trying to get that run home from third at a minimum. To left field, Ramirez will tag. Escobar makes the catch. Here comes the throw. Here comes Ramirez. He is out at the plate. Just not quite deep enough. Escobar comes up with a perfect one-hop throw to the plate, and Ramirez is called out.
And our new two-story bar with our $13 district ticket, which is presented by Sports Time Ohio. The new bar is the best place in town to grab a cold one, and with the district ticket, your first drink is on us. Just go to Indians.com.
Brian Dozier struck out his first time up. Corey Kluber has struck out 6 in the first 4 innings. A little bit outside for ball 1. Indians lead it 1-0.
Yeah, they had an opportunity to have a pretty big inning right there, and I'll tell you what, Escobar made a beautiful throw from left field there. One hop. Ramirez, one of the fastest guys on the team, he threw him out.
To left field, David Murphy. One away.
Figure, okay, I thought it was deep enough because Escobar is pretty much an infielder. But look at this throw. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. A one hopper. Stayed behind it nicely, too. And you could tell that throw, how quick he got in and out of that glove. He was an infielder, but a good throw to get him out of an inning. And Pelfrey out of a jam.
Kenny Vargas grounded to first. His only time up. A little bit low for ball one. You know, after Pelfrey got out of that inning, Twins set, or they had the left-hander Caleb Thielbar up, and he's now down. The right-hander up. Pretty good indication that the night is over for Pelfrey.
I would think so.
Night's just beginning for Corey Kluber. He has been locked in from the first pitch.
Yes, he has, from that very first hitter. We're in the bottom half of the fifth, and he just threw pitch number 50. "36 of those 50 have gone for strikes."
Change up and away. And a full count now. I don't know. Has he had a full count yet?
No.
It's got to be the first
I
one.
certainly do not remember him having a 3-ball count.
The payoff to Vargas. Shoots it foul on the third base side.
I'm going to go down there and work it. That was a good swing on that pitch. Sliced foul.
Now the 3-2. Go! Locked him up. Vargas could only stare and head back to the dugout.
It's going to be our Circle K strikeout here. A nice breaking ball. Look at that. He's not looking for that. He was looking for everything but that. And it just locks him up. 7th strikeout. That's his 3rd called.
And Trevor Plouffe, who was called out on strikes his first time up. With Plouffe, it was a fastball that was right on the outside corner, and he couldn't pull the trigger on it. That ended the 2nd inning. Swings to the first pitch, bangs it to short. Ramirez will throw him out. Twins are erased quickly here in the 5th. Kluber continues to mow him down. 1-0 Cleveland. on to the 6th inning of play. It's the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen for Minnesota. Mike Pelfrey went 5 innings. He allowed 1 run on 3 hits, walked 4, struck out 2. His wild pitch resulted in the game's only run. He's replaced by right-hander Tim Stauffer, making his 4th appearance of the year.
Well, he was in San Diego for the last 8 years, coming out of their bullpen.
Well, this won't take long. Our in-game recap brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Here's the only run of the game. Roberto Perez alertly scoring on a wild pitch. And Corey Kluber has just flat out dominated this Minnesota lineup through the first 5 innings, striking out 7. Carlos Santana, Brandon Moss, and David Murphy are due for Cleveland here in the 6th. Over the outside corner, breaking ball for a strike. Santana flied to center in the first, bounced into a fielder's choice in the 4th inning, ended up with a stolen base, but stranded at 3rd in that inning. Santana down on the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Stauffer is a former 1st-round pick by the Padres. He was the 4th overall selection back in '03. Santana is rung up. Yep. Breaking ball in the inside corner. 1 down. Our T-Mobile game changer. Boy, there was a lot of conjecture about what was going on with Chris Bryant at the end of spring training. The Cubs chose to send him down rather than put him on the big league roster. He got called up today, batting cleanup, a day that he'll never forget, both good and bad. Brandon Moss sends one deep left field. Over is Escobar, looking up. It is gone. Brandon Moss with his first home run of the year makes it a 2-0 Indians lead. Boy, really nice to see Moss stay on a ball and just drive it the other way. And you can see the kind of power he is because that ball flew out of here.
Well, I'll tell you, that stops the string. That's the first time in the last 6 games that the Indians have homered. It's another solo home run. All their homers have come on the road. He got a fastball that was they gave him a little swinging room. Mike Pelfrey, when he was in there, he didn't give him much to swing at. They left this ball out over the plate, and he took advantage.
Finally gave him some swinging room.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been just smothering him inside all throughout the early part of the year. Now David Murphy takes outside corner, a called strike. Came off the bat at 97 miles an hour, and it might have picked up some speed as it sailed out of here.
Well, it's nice to see staying on the baseball going the other way. And that's strong. You leave this ballpark, Oppo, you've done a good job.
Just ask Joe Mauer. A 1-2. Just inside. Did he chase? They appeal. Yes, he did, says Mark Carlson. And Murphy is out number 2 here in the 6th inning. Let's take another look. I wasn't convinced from high atop the ballpark. I'm still not convinced.
Yeah, but he jumped on it, didn't he? They said yes, he did. He checked. I don't think David thought he did.
Outside corner, a strike is called on Lonnie Chisenhall. Lonnie 0 for 2. Fly to right field, front edge of the warning track, just in front of it. Back in the 4th with the bases loaded and 2 down. Foul back. Four years ago, Tim Stauffer was the Padres' opening day starting pitcher. There's a line drive base hit into right field.
Yeah, he threw Lonnie an off-speed pitch, and it was down, and he kept his hands back and did a nice job of hitting that ball to right field. It looked like a changeup to me. 78 miles an hour. There it was, and that was not a bad spot for the changeup, down and away. But Lonnie, as I said, kept his hands back and gets the base hit.
Well, Roberto Perez, who scored the Indians' first run, bats with a runner at first, 2 down here in the 6th. Pulls it foul, and he's in the hole 0-2. Perez, a little tapper right back to the mound. And the inning is over. But Brandon Moss drives one out of here. He goes oppo. And the Indians lead is 2-0, middle of the 6th.
Guarantee some of the most exciting promotional items this season by purchasing a promo pass. For an additional $5, promo passes ensure fans get a promotional item no matter what time they arrive at the ballpark. Go to Indians.com and check it out.
Oswaldo Arcia, Chris Herman, Jordan Schaefer, hitters 7, 8, and 9 in the Twins lineup to bat here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Corey Kluber has struck out 7 through the first 5 innings of play. There's a liner to right, and the first hit of the night for Minnesota. Arcia with a leadoff single. Twins have their first base runner after 5 perfect frames from Corey Kluber.
It looked like he might have kept his hands back and hit a changeup. Yeah, you can see how deep he's holding it in that grip. That ball up, and Arcia stayed back. We'll get the first hit of the night for the Twins.
now Chris Herman, who hit a comebacker his only time up. Gets away from Perez, and down to second goes Arcia.
It's a wild pitch, I would think.
Yeah.
Backhanded ball down in the dirt.
Swing and a miss. He really tied him up.
Same pitch.
Yeah, stay
right back
there.
at him.
I saw the swing he had the pitch before, so I'm going to stay right there. Look at Perez sitting in there, that little cutter coming in.
Kluber with a 1-2.
They're going in further.
Fastball is up high, and Herman able to lay off for now. 2-2. Fouled off of his leg. Count stays 2 balls, 2 strikes. Corey Kluber truly had no-hit stuff tonight. But Arcia leads off the 6th with a single. And now working with a 2-0 lead. He has very little margin for error, even as well as he has pitched tonight. Base hit into right field. Coming around third. Arcia will be waved home. Moss's throw nowhere near the mark, and down to second base. The tying run gets into scoring position.
You cannot make a mistake like that. The guy gets a base hit. Kluber tried that cutter away, and what it does, it went into the barrel of his bat, and he was able to find a hole to right. But to throw home by Moss, that's the tying run at home plate. You have to keep him from getting to second base. Keep the double play in order. There's nobody out. Let's watch the throw. I don't know if Perez was up there able to get this ball, and it was offline. He went out as far as he could. That's just a bad throw from right field. That's your main concern. It's not the guy going home. It's that runner at home plate, which is the tying run when you get later in the game. And now you take away the double play. There's still nobody out. They have a chance to get him over, get him in without getting a base hit, and they can tie the game.
Well, Jordan Schaefer, everybody in the park expecting him to bunt. Indians pinching at the corners. He squares, bunks it straight back and over the screen. Now Kluber steps off, wants to go through it again with Perez. Minnesota held without a hit through the first 5. They get a leadoff single. Follow that up with another base hit. And on the throwing error, they get the tying run into scoring position. The 0-1. Up the middle, Ramirez going to go to third. He's called safe. And Lonnie didn't keep the tag on him. Otherwise, he'd have had him out because he fell off the base. And now the Twins have runners at first and third and nobody out.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive play by Ramirez to go to third because the ball was up the middle, right over the bag. So to even go there, and Chisenhall was playing in for the bunt. So by the time he can't get back in time, his foot does get into the bag, but he comes off and Lonnie's not looking. So aggressive play. He's safe. Now that opens the inning up for the Twins. So defensively, you have to get an out in that situation too. I mean, like I said, a very aggressive play. He's called safe. Herman gets his foot back on. And now they have first and third and still nobody out on the fielder's choice.
Well, this Friday night crowd for the first time has something to cheer about. Danny Santana steps to the plate 0 for 2 on the night. Swing and a miss.
Yeah, Klube's taking advantage of that aggressiveness there. He wants to try and get that tying run in. You may not have to throw him a strike here. Yeah, he may have to take things into his own hands now. The defense is starting to fade on him in this inning.
Runner goes from first to second. Santana gets the bunt down. Kluber throws it home, and Herman went back to third, so the bases are loaded.
Safety squeeze is what it was. They started the runner. They laid down the bunt. Kluber thought he had a play at the plate, but the runner wasn't going. That was a safety squeeze. You watch it. There goes the runner from first. He gets the bunt down. It's well done. And Herman says, I'm not going. He saw Kluber get off the mound. He goes back. So now they've got a bases loaded. What do you get? What do you score it here? Fielder's choice or
Got to be a fielder's choice, because if he goes to first, he's out.
Yeah, he thought he was going to flip it and come home. That was a safety squeeze. So now you've got 2 base hits, and they've got the bases loaded already, 1 man in, and now Kluber has to pitch for his life.
Eduardo Escobar is 0 for 2 tonight. He has flied to left, flied to center. Sacrifice and a fielder's choice? That's the official score?
Okay, because the guy went from first to second he was running, and he was going to get to second base. Even if he gets him at first, he would have sacrificed him to second.
A strange inning unfolding here in Minnesota.
Truly is.
We've had a wild pitch, an error, 2 fielders' choices, and a sacrifice. Bases loaded, nobody out. Indians clinging to a 1-run lead. And a strike is called. It's 0-2.
And Kluber had a perfect game through the first 5. And then this is really a weird inning.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss. He strikes him up, and the ball gets away from Perez. Here's a throw to the plate. Not in time. And the Twins have tied the game on a strikeout. Man, has this game gotten bizarre.
This is one weird inning. He swung. He couldn't hold it up. The ball gets past Perez. The run comes in. They tie the game on a strikeout, wild pitch. He did swing. Ball gets away from Perez. In comes Kluber. Man, he's lucky he didn't hurt his ass
very
right
lucky.
there in that situation. That's the first thing I pictured. I'm thinking, my goodness, what else could happen? They finally get the first out. And Mickey Callaway has to come out. They got to give Kluber some time. So another wild pitch. This is weird.
So that's 2 hits, an error, 2 wild pitches, 2 fielders' choices, and a sacrifice. And the only out on the strikeout that also included the wild pitch.
Yeah, where they tied the game with the run.
Now the Indians are going to walk Joe Mauer to load the bases.
Yeah, this might be one of the ugliest innings of the year so far. No question about it. This half inning here. And they will, when it's all said and done, have the bases loaded again and just 1 out for their cleanup hitter, Brian Dozier. It'll be the first walk for Kluber, an intentional walk. Dozier's pretty much he hits the ball in the air, so see if Klubs can get ahead of him and go for the strikeout.
Brian Dozier struck out in the 2nd inning, flied to left in the 5th. Infield double play depth. Yeah, almost hit him. Very close, ball 1.
Now this came awfully close to hitting him. That ball kept running away. Right at the last minute, he pulled the arm in.
Swing and a miss. Dozier saw one sort of spinning up there, a little hanger. And he opened up that front hip and tried to hit it out of here and swung through it. Ball to third. Chisenhall has it. Goes to second. There's one. Kipnis on to first. Inning-ending double play. But Minnesota somehow manufactures 2 runs. And we are tied at 2 after 6.
Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable.
Well, it's a 2-2 ball game as we go to the 7th inning. Minnesota goes back to their bullpen. Third pitcher of the night is left-hander Aaron Thompson. Already making his 6th appearance. Jose Ramirez, number 9 hitter, to lead it off for Cleveland. And a breaking ball called a strike.
Well, in his last at-bat, they executed a beautiful hit and run when he was on the left side of the plate. That led to the Indians' first run.
And a swing and a miss. It's 0-2. Jose with an opposite field single in the 5th inning on a beautifully executed hit and run. And a foul in and out of the glove of Herman, enables Ramirez to stay alive. Well, this game went from, I don't want to say it was a perfect fundamental clinic, but it was really well played, executing well, and then all of a sudden, the span of about 5 minutes, it got weird.
Yeah.
Some poor execution on the Indians' part.
Yeah, that half inning, that was not a pretty inning.
And just like that, it's a tie game.
Little things you have to do defensively. You know, you got aggressive instead of Ramirez going and making that play at third base, you know, instead of taking the out at first base. It just adds on. But Kluber made his pitch to get the double play ball to keep it a tie game.
Pop to center. Schaefer calls for it. 1 away. Time for a Mazda game break. Let's go to the studios. Here's Al Pawlowski. All right, thanks, Al. Same story in Boston. Red Sox Orioles 2-2 there in the 8th. 2-2 here in the 7th in Minnesota. Michael Bourne takes a called strike. Earlier today, Tigers beat the White Sox with a walk-off at home 2-1. Down low to Bourne. 1-1. Just a bit outside, 2 balls a strike. Aaron Thompson was originally a Florida Marlins first-round pick back in 2005. Grounded towards short. Santana fires it over, and Bourne is out number 2. Well, tomorrow, Major League Baseball on Fox Sports 1 returns with back-to-back Eastern Division showdowns in the American League. Orioles, Red Sox, followed by Yankees, Rays. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on America's home for baseball every Saturday. Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Jason Kipnis, fly ball to left. Escobar. Indians go 1, 2, 3, and we've reached the stretch here in Minnesota, tied at 2. 7th inning stretch brought to you by Spitzer Corey Kluber will face 5, 6, and 7 in the Minnesota lineup. 77 pitches on the night. Most of them expended in that bizarre 6th inning in which Minnesota scored their 2 runs to tie it after Kluber went 5 perfect innings. And Vargas slaps one foul.
Tried to shoot one that way last at bat.
There have been some at-bats in this game tonight in which Kluber has just put on a clinic. And that was one of them. He had Vargas on the 3-2 count and then eventually just locked him up with a breaking ball that froze him. The 1-1. I think the 2 at-bats that he's had against Mauer have been gems as well. You don't see Mauer strike out very often.
No, that's true. He usually finds a way to put it in play.
The 2-1. Foul off of his foot. Line to center. Bourne breaking in. Reaches down. Does he make the catch?
Yes,
he does.
Boy, he had to wait and pick that one up right off the ground. That's probably, as a center fielder, the toughest play to make is that line drive. That ball didn't get very high. And you see, Bourne had to wait there. He wasn't sure if he could go ahead and make the catch, but boy, he finally got that glove under there. That's a really difficult decision to make because it's a leadoff hitter. You don't want the ball to get by you if you don't catch it. And that thing's sinking by the time it gets to you, but he picks it up right off the ground.
Just another example of, here's a guy in Bourne who's played a long time, thinking he's seen every ball hit every which way, and even that one almost locked him up.
Well, that's a difficult play.
Moss has a routine play in right field. 2 down. Well, in case you joined us late, or you just want to relive some misery, this is what happened in the 6th. First hit of the game. He had a wild pitch.
Bad throw.
Bad decision.
Yeah, real bad decision because the runner goes to second base. A time run, that's to me is a bad decision too. Going that way. And then the suicide safety squeeze that nobody runs. That's 2 wild pitches for Kluber in the inning. He had 3 all of last year in 235 innings. And he had 2 in this inning. So that goes to show you how weird it is. But he got the double play ball to get out and never give him the lead.
Oswaldo Arcia. He had that first hit of the game for Minnesota. This time he'll fly to left. Kluber tidy here in the 7th. 1, 2, 3. Twins are retired. We'll go to the 8th. Tied at 2.
by authority of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians.
Grab some friends and catch a game at our new 2-story bar with our $13 district ticket presented by Sports Time Ohio. The new bar is the best place in town to grab a cold one. And with the district ticket, your first drink is on us. Indians.com/district ticket for ticket details. Michael Brantley is 1 for 3 on the night. In his return to the lineup, he drives one right center field. And Arcia will make the catch in the gap. 1 away. Aaron Thompson has retired all 4 that he has faced.
There's only 7 hits in this game. The Indians have 5. The Twins have 2.
Thompson's kind of an interesting story. I mentioned before he was drafted by the Marlins. First round, 22nd overall pick back in 05. Didn't make his major league debut until 6 years later. And that was a brief 4-game stint with the Pirates. Didn't pitch in the big leagues again until last year. And that was only 7 games with Minnesota. So his perseverance has paid off.
Well, and if he's left-handed. If you can get some outs from the left-hand side of the plate, you can stay around a long time.
Santana takes a strike. He's 0 for 3 tonight. He has flied out, bounced into a fielder's choice, and he has been called out on strikes. This is a park he's had a lot of success in, but the Twins have held him in check so far tonight. That's down low. Got to play. I could be wrong, but that looked like one Santana would like to have back.
Yeah, you get to 2 strikes, and you can't sit on just one pitch. You have to make sure you cover it. You cover the plate.
The 2-2. And a bouncer to short, big hop for Santana. He'll take his time. 2 away. Here's our Yellowwood bringing the lumber of the night. Brandon Moss back in the 6th. His first home run of the year. An oppo shot. At the time gave the Indians a 2-0 lead. Since then the Twins have come back to tie it.
That was really the one time he had a pitch to swing at tonight. That home run he hit, it was away from him. It was that fastball that was singing away off Stauffer. They've been trying to tie him up.
Thompson stepped off the rubber. Maybe he saw the catcher Herman set up away.
So far away.
Hey, what are you doing over there? You're supposed to be the other way. Go the other way.
Well, as a hitter, too, when that pitcher steps up, you can take a quick peek back and see where that catcher's located.
Off-speed pitch in for a strike. Low and away. Tried to paint the corner. Two here in the 8th, and 2 down, bases empty for Moss. Off-speed pitch really pulled the string on him. Strikes him out, ends the inning. Indians are retired in order, and that's 7 in a row set down by the Twins bullpen. Two, bottom of the 8th inning. Here at Target Field in downtown Minneapolis. Corey Kluber worked a 1-2-3 7th inning. And he's just over 80 pitches on the night, so he comes back out here for the 8th. Hitters 8, 9, and 1 due up for Minnesota. Chris Herman will lead it off. He's the Twins catcher. And an RBI single his last time up.
Yeah, that's when it all started. Garcia got the second on a wild pitch, and Herman got the base hit. And then Herman went to second on an error.
Down and in. 1 ball, 1 strike. Falls behind here, 2-1. Line drive, base hit in the left. 3rd hit of the night for Minnesota. Herman has 2 of them. Minnesota's leadoff man aboard for the 2nd time tonight.
Well, that's about what you do with it. A good fastball away. He stayed on it nicely. It might have been up a little bit, but he lined it into left field. So They get their leadoff man aboard here in the 8th, and we'll see if Schaefer's going to be bunting again. You would have to think so.
Chisenhall in on the grass at third.
Throw to first to see if he's going to tip his hand. He did not. Sometimes hitters will square around early where you get a chance to see it.
He does square. Kluber will go to first. Or Kipnis covers. One down. Go ahead run into scoring position. Following the game, stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Al Pulaski, Jensen Lewis. We'll have all the highlights from the studio.
Santana had an opportunity in his last at-bat to drive in the runs. Remember how aggressive he was early, and I'm sure Corey Kluber remembers it as well. Started him off with either those cutters or something inside. He had a man at third base.
Pop back out of play. That at bat with Santana resulted in the safety squeeze that loaded the bases. It's by Kluber. Kipnis will throw him out. 2 down.
He just buried him inside with that cutter. He didn't get much of that one. Just a simple little ground down. Runner goes to third base, but he gets the second out.
Eduardo Escobar 0 for 3 on the night. It was Escobar who struck out on a ball that was down and in, and that's the one that got by by Roberto Perez and enabled Minnesota to tie the game. It was scored a wild pitch, and there's no question it was not an easy play for Perez to try to block it.
Well, 2 wild pitches in an inning. Kluber last year 3 for the whole year.
Good pitch. Over the outside corner.
Oh, no, it hit him.
Hit him on the foot. He
good.
went to the same pitch that he went to in the last at bat to strike him out with. That pitch down and in, but that one nailed him. You know, I was looking at where Roberto Perez was setting up, and I was wondering
right off the toe
if he was going to, go down and in with it, or he was going to try to come and backdoor it. But
Well, the last time he tried to backdoor that ball, breaking ball, Schaefer got a base hit to right, so you buried him inside. It looks like he's coming out.
Paul Molitor.
Now, maybe for another reason, too. He did make a good throw to get a double play earlier in the game. Let's see who's coming in for him. Robinson.
Shane Robinson will pinch run. And Minnesota with 2 on and 2 out, and here comes Mickey Callaway.
Well, and maybe to talk about this situation here with Mauer at the plate.
You got Mauer with Dozier behind him. Last time up, even though Kluber struck him out his first 2 times to the plate, they intentionally walked him to load the bases, and then Dozier hit into the inning-ending double play. And it's one of those situations, Rick, he's such a good hitter that if you feel strongly about it, just because there's not a base open at first doesn't mean you couldn't walk him again.
No, that's true. But you just got to be patient and make good pitches to him. He did strike him out the first 2 times, and then they went to the intentional walk. So he has made good pitches to him all night tonight, really.
Low ball 1. With 2 outs and a runner in scoring position, Joe Mauer is a career .333 hitter with more than 200 runs driven in. In the dirt.
Yeah, he's being careful here. Boy, when you call that cutter or that breaking ball, you better be ready in the dirt to just smother it, and he does with the man on third base. He just dropped to his knee. You're not concerned about the guy on first base.
Now the 2-0. Ground ball towards Kipnis.
Good job.
He'll throw to first. And Kluber gets out of the inning. 8 complete from target field. And this game still deadlocked at 2. As we promised you earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Corey Kluber, terrific once again here tonight. He has struck out 8 batters. He was perfect through the first 5 innings. The game just took sort of a bizarre turn in the 6th, in which Minnesota got their only 2 runs of the night. And so Corey Kluber continues that streak. That now 8 straight games in which he's gone at least 6 innings, and he's allowed 2 runs or less.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 runs today, that big double play ball kept it at 2 runs, but a really strange inning when they scored their 2 runs.
Now Glenn Perkins for Minnesota. He's the left-handed closer coming into a tie game, and Mike Avila is going to pinch hit for David Murphy. New left fielder is Shane Robinson, who came out as a pinch runner for Escobar when he was hit by that pitch. Right back up the middle. Big hop for Dozier. And he'll throw out Avila's one away. In-game box score brought to you by Hyundai. Indians 2 runs coming on a Roberto Perez leadoff single. He aggressively went to third on a hit and run with Jose Ramirez. He scored on a wild pitch. Brandon Moss with a solo homer in the 6th. There's Lonnie Chisenhall, 1 for 3 tonight. It's outside ball 1. Lonnie Chisenhall pops it up out of play to the left. Chisenhall almost gave the Indians a big lead early in the 4th inning of this game. Bases loaded. There were 2 outs. And he hit a ball to right field that was just shy of the warning track. It was one of those balls where he just mishit it by the smallest of fractions. Otherwise, that would have been a grand slam and would have had the Indians sailing. Punches it to left field near the line. Fair ball. Hits the sidewall, and Robinson is going to be able to hold Lonnie to a long 1-out single.
Pretty good swing there by Lonnie. Against Perkins, a tough left-hander. He was able to keep the ball fair. He loves the ball down. Look at that swing. That ball, that was I don't even know if it was a strike. And he was able to keep that ball fair. It's just that Robinson comes into the game and he played it off that wall pretty well. Couldn't take the chance.
Well, Roberto Perez, 1 for 3 on the night, stands in. Downstairs, ball 1, a breaking ball. Jammed him, and it's fouled right back, 1-1. Glenn Perkins, born in St. Paul. Former Gopher at the University of Minnesota. '22nd overall pick of the Twins in the first round of the '04 draft.
Boy, when he got the opportunity and stepped into that closer's role, he really relished it, didn't he? Took advantage of it. He's done a really good job for the Twins.
Back-to-back 30-plus save seasons for Perkins. 36 2 years ago, 34 last year. Upstairs. 4 consecutive seasons of 60 or more appearances. Career high 70 games pitched back in 2012. I think that's when he was transitioning into the closer's role. He had 16 saves that year. Fouled right back. Good cut by Perez, but you can see him kind of shaking his head. I'd like to have that one again. Struck him out. 2 down. High heat.
Yes, he comes down. They right there, elevated a little above the belt, and Perez comes and swings through it.
Jose Ramirez 1 for 3 tonight. And he comes up with a big hack, but empty. Perkins with 90 career saves. He's 14 away from 5th place on the Twins all-time list. Jeff Reardon, who had 104 in a Twins uni. Cody Allen from the right side, and also Zach McAllister warming for Cleveland. And the 0-2 strike 3 call. Indians manage a hit, but that is all, and we'll go to the bottom of the 9th, tied at 2.
Field, the Twins and Indians are knotted up at 2 runs apiece as we go into the bottom of the 9th, and Zach McAllister's on the mound for the Indians after Corey Kluber went 8 innings. Zach McAllister will be in the bullpen most likely for the rest of the season, or for the time being, as Danny Salazar will make a start tomorrow for the Tribe. Terry Francona told him guys before the game, he says, look, I think you can be a starter in the majors, but we need you right now in our bullpen. So we'll see how this goes for Zach McAllister.
Well, and it's a big appearance for McAllister. I mean, his first time out of the bullpen, and here you go, 9th inning tie game. He's got to make the shift mentality-wise, Rick, but probably an easier shift to go from starter to bullpen than other way around.
Oh, yeah.
Early in a year like this.
Yeah, because you had a feel for all your pitches and things like that. If Vila stays in the game, he goes into left field. But, you know, McAllister, last time he pitched, he came in when Carrasco got hit in the face after the second hitter in Cleveland and pitched. So this is actually, I guess, his second bullpen appearance, but that was almost like a spot start there.
Yeah.
Because nobody was out.
There were 2 batters into the game, you're right. Well, Brian Dozier going to lead off for Minnesota. He's 0 for 3 on the night. And what the Indians really feel will enable McAllister to have some success in this role is he can just let it out. And he's got a good fastball. But in the starter's role, you've got to be able to show something else to the hitters because you got to go through the lineup multiple times.
Right.
In the relief role, He's only going to see a few hitters, but Dozier jumps on that fastball and turns it around. And Minnesota has their leadoff man aboard.
Well, you've got a high fastball pitcher that right there is a good fastball hitter that's up. Look at him pull those hands in and go get it. That ball was hit. He is a good high fastball hitter.
See, he missed the target, too.
Yes, they wanted it away. I know.
Kenny Vargas is 0 for 3 tonight. He is grounded out, struck out, and flied to center.
Dozier, a guy that can steal a base as well.
None so far this year for Dozier.
Well, this puts him back in like a leadoff role. He led off all last year, so he was leading off this inning. He's on first base. No stranger to it if need be.
Outside with it, 1-1. Outfield straight up. See Chisenhall well off the line at third, trying to take away that opposite field slap hit. We've seen Vargas try to shoot it that way a couple of times tonight, and he is a little tardy on that 96-mile-an-hour fastball from McAllister. Now play down the left side. Kenny Vargas down on the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. And a foul right back. Vargas out of Puerto Rico. Signed by the Twins back in 2009 as an undrafted free agent.
Coming into this game, both teams, the Minnesota Twins and the Indians, each had 27 runs scored. Here we are in the 9th. It's 2-2.
McAllister taking too much time, and Vargas steps away. Minnesota came in at 3-6. The Indians are 3-5, and Vargas sends one deep to left field. Back is Aviles, and he makes the catch, slams into the wall, and hangs on. And all the way back to first scampers Dozier. Boy, Kenny Vargas almost sent one out of here. And Mike Aviles did a tremendous job to stay with it and make a tough catch.
Made a beautiful catch here. If he hits his cutoff man in Ramirez, I think they have a double play. But he overshoots him. He tries to throw it a little too far instead of hitting his cutoff man. Made a nice catch. Goes up against the wall. That gets over his head. It's at least second and third.
See McAllister let out a big sigh of relief. Now he'll go to work against Trevor Plouffe, and who is 0 for 3 tonight. And that's on target for a first pitch strike. One fouled right back. Nothing into the count. Plouffe is another first-round pick of the Twins back in 04. The 20th overall selection that year. Out of play to the right. Winning run at first in the form of Brian Dozier with one out here in the bottom of the ninth. Plouffe takes its low, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Looks like Caleb Thielbar will be coming on for Minnesota if this game goes to extra innings. McAllister needs 2 more outs to push this game to a 10th inning. Runner goes. Bouncer towards short. Ramirez's only play is to first. 2 down. Winning run in scoring position.
I was wondering what took him so long to take off. I expected him to go earlier in the count.
Well, let's look back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Early offense. Well, the Indians had the lead. Not a lot of offense, but they did have a 2-0 lead. Defensive execution, not really up to snuff. And it was only 1 bad inning, but it was enough to cost them the lead. In that one weird inning in the 6th, there were a couple of wild pitches. There was an error. And just some strange plays. Missed a cutoff man, a chance to get a runner at third, but just
safety squeeze
weird.
Where, you know, they went home and the guy went back to third. It was definitely a weird inning. Well, you've got a left-hander up, and Callaway goes out to talk to McAllister. You got a left-hander on deck.
Oswaldo Arcia is 1 for 3. Chris Herman, the on-deck man, is 2 for 3. Arcia has more power. He's the guy you worry about from that aspect compared to Herman.
Yeah, you give him a little swinging room, he could do some damage.
And McAllister reaches back for a little something extra, and that one blowing by him at 97 miles an hour.
Yeah, but watch the location. Well, off the plate. Off the plate, so he got him to swing at his pitch.
That's way off the mark. 1-1. Twelve out of 15 pitches for McAllister have been strikes. But Minnesota has the winning run at second base with 2 out here in the bottom of the 9th inning. And now the 1-1.
Yeah, they're just going to stay out there, and if he doesn't want to swing, he's just maybe overthrowing these other 2 pitches. That first one was a good located pitch that was close enough. He got Arcia to swing at. The last 2 pitches, they weren't close enough. You know, he just takes them. He's in the driver's seat. So what are they just going to walk him here? Yeah, well, yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're just going to intentionally walk him now.
I think the plan was if he wanted to swing, go ahead and let him get himself out. Chris Herman is 0 for 11 in his career against McAllister.
Well, he had a couple of good at-bats against Kluber. He had 2 of the 3 hits given up by Corey.
So Arcia takes first base. And now Chris Herman, 2 for 3 tonight with an RBI and a run scored.
Infielder, you got to knock everything down.
And a pitch just outside, ball 1. The 1-0 out of play. 2 runs on 6 hits for Cleveland. 2 runs on 4 hits for Minnesota. Paul Molitor's club opened up losing 5 out of 6 in their first road trip, but came home and took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. Upstairs, 2 balls and a strike. They did not have a base runner in this game through the first 5 innings. And Corey Kluber had struck out 7 before the strange events of the 6th inning unfolded. Minnesota able to tie the game. Now a chance to win it here in the bottom of the 9th. McAllister trying to see that doesn't happen. Throws one by Herman. Elevated fastball up and away. It's 2-2.
Fastball up above the belt.
Upstairs, a full count. Well, with the runners moving, should Herman get one through to the outfield, this game will very likely be over. Makes it almost impossible for the outfielders. Once the runners get that head start.
No doubt.
So here we go. Everybody up on their feet. Time called. Roberto Perez heads out to the mound.
And you remember, Dozier's a guy on second base who can run. So.
Yeah. Well, Jay Giles.
Yeah. Let's see if Zach can send it into extra innings right here.
Here's the payoff. Swinging a little tapper right out in front of the plate. And we've got extra innings in Minnesota. 2-2 through 9. Link's beef jerky all season long. Jack Link's, feed your wild side. 2-2, 10th inning. And the new pitcher for Minnesota is Caleb Thielbar, left-hander coming on for Minnesota. If you're left-handed, you're going to pitch against the Indians.
That's a pretty good bat.
Thielbar just got the call up when they put Brian Dunsing on the DL, but last year he made 54 appearances for Minnesota.
Yeah, we saw him late in the year many times because we would always see Brian Dunsing.
Yeah.
He'd always pitch against the Tribe as well.
Top of the order for Cleveland. Bourne trying to bunt his way aboard. Herman done a nice job to get out and jump on it, throw him out, one away.
Just not quite far enough. As Herman made a nice running play, kept his momentum going. He called off the pitcher right there. Might have made it a little tougher for him if it was a little closer to the line, but Michael trying to take it with him.
Jason Kipnis 0 for 3 with a walk. And he takes a breaking ball for a strike. Low and away. Missed inside.
First extra inning game for both of these clubs this year. The Indians were the last team last year to play an extra inning game.
The 3-1. And Kipnis hits one high and slicing foul down the left side. Well, you know you're going to play him eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, they just
Well, you
ended up with a lot last year. It just didn't get to him early.
When you're not scoring a lot of runs, you're going to play a lot of low-scoring games. You're going to have quite a few extra inning games. Right now, at the start of this year, these two teams, both of them, are struggling to score runs. Although the Twins are coming off a 14-hit performance yesterday where they scored 8.
2 down here in the 10th.
Here comes a fastball that locks Kipnis up down on the knees, right on the outside part of the plate. Pretty good pitch for Thielbar.
8 strikeouts now for Minnesota pitching on the night. Michael Brantley 1 for 4. There's a fastball in for a strike. Caleb Thielbar is one of 10 Minnesota natives that played at the major league level last year. Right back up the middle. Michael Brantley has his second hit of the game, and the Indians have a 2-out base runner.
there you go. You talk about staying back on a slider. Kept his hands back. That ball was away. And he strokes it nicely into center field. Didn't do much with it. Just kept the hands back and boom.
Paul Molitor going to make a pitching change here with 2 outs in the 10th inning. Thielbar is out. We'll be right back. Two in the 10th. Indians have a go-ahead run at first with 2 down, and the batter will be Carlos Santana. And Paul Molitor wanted to turn Carlos Santana around to the left side, so he goes to Blaine Boyer, right-hander. Boyer's been around. He made his debut in the big leagues with Atlanta back in '05. He's also pitched with the Cardinals, Diamondbacks, and Padres at the big league level. He's also spent time over in Japan.
Okay, all National League then, huh?
Carlos Santana is 0 for 4 tonight. Boyer, 33 years old. Santana fouls it off.
They're gradually moving over on that infield. Now Plouffe is playing at the shortstop position.
High pop, left field over near the line. We'll go to the bottom of the 10th. Still tied at 2. 2-2 as we roll on to the bottom of the 10th here in Minnesota. And here is our Pat O'Brien play of the game. Mike Avila saves it for the Indians with a terrific running catch, smacking into the outfield wall. Otherwise, this game very likely would have been over. That's our Pat O'Brien play of the game. And now here in the bottom of the 10th inning, Zach McAllister will stay on for a second inning of relief work. And it's Jordan Schaefer to lead it off for Minnesota. Mark Zipchinski is getting loose in the Indians bullpen. Schaefer fouling it straight back. A little bit low. Good pitch. Painted the outside corner. And he tips the scales on Schaefer. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Down in the dirt. And Schaefer is rung up.
Yeah, locked him out there.
First strikeout for McAllister. 1 down here in the bottom of the 10th.
Came back and he paints that inside corner. There you go. Fastball that doesn't pull the trigger on. You don't, I almost wonder sometimes what hitters are looking for when you take a called third fastball.
Especially because he was starting after
most
it.
of the time you're looking for, for fastballs. That's one thing that you, as a hitter, you can't let that guy beat you on is a fastball.
Swing and a foul into the glove of Perez by Danny Santana, who's 0 for 4 tonight.
Mark wants to know if you're going to rush. Oh, yeah.
And again, Santana looking a little tardy on that fastball. Now he pulls one to first. Santana has an easy play. 2 down. And now Shane Robinson, who came out as a pinch runner when Eduardo Escobar was hit on the foot by a pitch in the 8th inning. Down the right side, but that's going to find the seats. Brian Shaw and Mark Zipchinski both throwing now in the Indians bullpen, but for Zach McAllister, he's 1 out away from working a second scoreless inning. Bullseye outside corner. shoots it down the right field line. Fair ball, headed over, trying to cut it off his Moss. He will, and he'll hold Robinson to a 2-out single.
0-2 pitch was upstairs and out over the plate. Robinson just stayed on it, slaps it the other way. And that's going to be it for McAllister. Bring the left hand around to face Joe Mauer. That would be his only hitter. So an 0-2, 2-out base hit. McAllister went an inning in 2/3.
Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, is coming your way next here on Sports Time Ohio. Of course, next is a relative term. We need a run. Somebody's got to score for there to be a next. But right now it's up to Mark Sipchinski to make sure that doesn't happen and get this game to an 11th inning for Cleveland. He's got Joe Mauer at the plate. Mauer is 0 for 3 with an intentional walk tonight.
And I think this is going to be his only guy. You know, if he gets him out good, the Indians get a chance to go hit and try and score. If he doesn't, then Shaw will be in to face Dozier.
Sipchinski's a guy who knows his role very well. Last year, 23 times he came into a game to face one batter. Nobody did it more in baseball. Runner goes. Pitch is low. Throw down. Not in time. It goes off the glove of Ramirez, and Dozier will go to third. Excuse me, Robinson will go to third. So Shane Robinson gets the stolen base, and on the error, he goes to third. I'm just not sure, Rick, if the error is on Perez or if it's on Ramirez.
Well, let's take a look and see. He had a very good jump. There's the throw. And it's sailing and sailing. I think it's catchable, but Ramirez wanted to try and catch it and tag him. You just have to catch the ball first. We'll wait and see who they give it to.
They charged Roberto Perez with the error.
Okay.
But I agree with you. It was a very catchable ball.
Yes, it was.
Now Mauer only needs to. He's going to be intentionally walked, so he won't even have a chance.
Okay. And then I'm sure Tito's going to go back out and get Brian Shaw.
Well, there's two ways of looking at this, Rick, I suppose. You go Shaw against Dozier, or you load the bases. Do you want Vargas to bat?
I don't think you load the bases. There's too much pressure on anybody. I think Shaw is going to come in here and get Dozier.
Here comes Terry Francona to make the move. And he will go to Brian Shaw. So Zipchinski doesn't really get a chance to finish the at-bat with Joe Mauer because of the stolen base and the errant throw. Runner at third for Minnesota, first and third actually, with 2 down in the 10th. Third base. And with 2 outs, it's Brian Shaw against Brian Dozier. Shaw's 5th appearance of the year. The winning run is Shane Robinson at third. Brian Dozier is 1 for 4 on the night. His base hit came in his last at-bat. A little bit outside, ball 1. Oh for 8 with a strikeout against Indians right-hander Brian Shaw. Mauer takes off. He goes to second. Nobody cares because that doesn't mean anything. The only guy that matters right now for the Indians is the runner at third. Shaw's behind 2-0. Now 3 balls, no strikes. And he's going to end up facing Vargas anyway. Or so it would appear. We'll see if he can get back into the at-bat.
Well, Dozier will be taken right here, I would imagine.
Walks him on 4 pitches, and the bases are loaded. Kenny Vargas to the plate. Roberto Perez to the mound. Mickey Callaway knows that Shaw's in a situation now where he has got to throw strikes.
Well, even if I'm this hitter, you got to figure I got to take a strike here. He's throwing 4 pitches and hasn't found the strike zone. You can't come up here, I wouldn't think, as a hitter and swing the bat on the first pitch. No matter how bad you want to. You've got to make that pitcher get in the strike zone.
Vargas nearly won this game in the bottom of the 9th with a drive to deep left field.
Yes, he did.
takes, and it is a strike.
Slider. He slowed him down. He went with all, like, I'm not sure if they were cutters, but they were fastballs. If they were cut fastballs that he walked him to, but he comes right back and he throws that big breaking ball, the slider, to get a strike. That helped.
Fastball blew it by him at 95 miles an hour. Boy, it's amazing how often a pitcher that can't find his spot throws an off-speed pitch and everything falls back into place.
Yeah, he settles him down. He slows him down. That delivery with the breaking ball, and he comes back with a good fastball.
And now Shaw with the 0-2. Swing and a miss. He blew it right by him. 3 pitches, and Shaw gets out of a bases-loaded jam in the 10th. Two-two. We go to the 11th inning. First ball swinging. Brandon Moss fouls it back out of play. In tight.
Minnesota has used 6 pitchers so far tonight.
This was Brandon Moss's first home run of the year. This came back in the 6th inning. Gave the Indians at that time a 2-0 lead. Boyer's 1-1. Up and away, 2 balls and a strike. Blaine Boyer originally was with the Atlanta Braves, and that was a dream come true at the time for him, starting out his career, because he's a Georgia boy. I told you before, he's been around a long time. He started in 2000 when he was a 3rd-round pick of the Braves. But in 2012, after a number of years in the big leagues with Atlanta, St. Louis, and Arizona, he walked away from the game. No arm injury, no issue as far as that was involved. He strikes out Moss, 1 down here in the 11th. He just didn't have it, didn't have the fire. And in some cases, it's not necessarily the that you can't do it physically. It's mentally, the game, the grind, the wear and tear. And he said, I couldn't find the balance between professional sports and family life. He had a couple of young boys, and he wanted to figure out what he was going to do with the rest of his life. So he walked away from the game, and he helped broker a real estate deal for Paul Byrd.
Oh, really?
When he was out of the game. And the two kind of struck up a conversation, and one thing led to another. And it was Paul Byrd who invited him to his house. And in his basement, he's got this elaborate sort of baseball setup where he's got a pitcher's mound and workout room. And it was Paul Byrd who just kind of worked with him and got him back to finding that balance that he needed.
Interesting.
There's a line drive base hit by Mike Aviles. And the Indians hit the winning run aboard. Go ahead, run aboard. And Aviles very aggressively goes into second base. Took the base off it out of the ground. And in the process, Danny Santana might have caught a spike or just. Let's see, take another look as Aviles, a really aggressive base running.
Well, he started out and thought it was going to be a single, and then he kicked it into gear when he realized it had a chance to get towards that gap. So Schaefer had to backhand it and make a strong throw, and here comes Aviles. Boy, he hit that bag, and those bags are hard, my friend. You get into those, and you know he's got strong lower legs and calves, and he just pulls the bag right out of the ground, really.
You know what? What's the ruling on that? Had the bag literally come out all the way and would have tumbled away?
Then no,
he's got to be safe. Right?
Yeah, that he would have been.
All right, so Aviles.
It's a lot of pressure right there, boy, pulling that bag out. They're going to walk Chisenhall.
Lonnie will get the free pass. And Roberto Perez waiting on deck. Now Paul Molitor talking things over in his dugout. You got the righty-righty matchup here with Roberto Perez, switch hitting Jose Ramirez on deck. One out here in the 11th inning. So Roberto, who singled and scored back in the 5th inning, 1 for 4 on the night, steps in. He takes a long look at Aviles and deals, and Perez takes a little bit high, ball 1. Fouled right back. You know, when I was reading the story about Boyer and his return to the big leagues and the work he did with Paul Byrd, I didn't realize, and we watched Paul Byrd, we knew he had great command. I didn't realize, though, in almost 1,700 big league innings, Paul Byrd walked 2 batters per 9 innings.
Yeah, he was the type of pitcher, he'd go 0-2 and he'd still come right at you.
No need to waste a pitch.
Yeah, right. Well, he gave up a lot of 0-2 base hits when you think about it. We asked him the one time. He says, look, I'm programmed. I got to go up there and I got to throw strikes.
One of the things that a lot of pitchers have to get over is fear of contact. You've got to pitch to contact sometimes. That's what those guys behind you are there for. Right now, Boyer just wants an out any way he can get it. Roberto Perez trying to give the Indians the lead here. Way outside, 2 balls, 2 strikes. There's Jose Ramirez. The 2-2 now to Perez. And a foul right back. Roberto Perez, when he singled to lead off the 5th inning, it was only the 2nd hit of the night at that time for Cleveland. And good aggressive base running led to the first run of this game.
Sure did.
And a 2-2 pitch coming. Strikes him out. 2 away.
That's 10 strikeouts now for Twins pitching this evening. But Ramirez has an opportunity.
Jose is 1 for 4 in the ballgame.
That hit was the hit and run.
And that hit came from this side of the plate. And he takes a little bit low, ball 1. They in left field, Shane Robinson really guarding over toward the line.
He has a pretty big hole at shortstop over there. If you look,
kind of what I was looking at.
Yeah, because you've got Santana behind Avila's trying to hold him close.
There's a strike. Evens it up at 1-1.
Take that same swing on the hit and run.
Just tell yourself it's a hit and run, right?
Yeah. Yeah, hit it on the ground, hit it that way.
Cody Allen will come in if the Indians take the lead. Nick Hagan on if we stay tied. And the 1-1. Hard hit ground ball to first. Maurer take it himself. We'll go to the bottom of the 11th. Still tied at 2. Target field. Game tied 2-2. Brian Shaw at the final out with a bases loaded jam in the 10th inning. So he'll stay on to face at least Trevor Plouffe, right-handed batter. Then Minnesota has 3 lefties following him, so in all likelihood we'll see Nick Hagan on. Plouffe is 0 for 4 tonight. A little bit outside. It's ball one. One for 5 for Plouffe against the Indians right-hander Brian Shaw. Breaking ball missed inside. 2-0. And now it's 3-0. Boy, it's strange for Brian Shaw. Remember, he came in and walked Brian Dozier on 4 pitches. Then struck out Kenny Vargas with some brilliant stuff.
Well, he came out. He hasn't thrown a strike to the right-handers until now.
Yeah. Shaw deals. Plouffe swinging, and this game is over. Trevor Plouffe with a walk-off in the bottom of the 11th on a 3-1 pitch. He was sitting on it, and he launched it.